Three reasons that I am very excited over ArchUnitNet architecture testing framework. Hello friends, today I want to discuss a architecture test framework. I am very excited. There are three reasons why I am very much excited. First, our reason is this is the first open source architecture testing framework. Architecture of an application is very important. Architecture helps us to find classes very easily, maintain, make sure the separation of concerns are different. Upgrading from one technology to another technology is easy. So if all the data access concerns are maintained in the data access layer, tomorrow if the data access technology changes, it's very easy to just go to one layer and make those changes. When we start a project is generally we start with a clean architecture. There is a layers. What happens over the time is architecture becomes corrupted, corroded and compromised. Programmers like us take shortcuts, do things easily, do things easy way. I have seen people writing 1,000 lines of code and putting whole code in data access, or write all the business logic, everything in store procedure. So those kind of applications are difficult to maintain. If you introduce one bug, it creates 100 bugs. So having some kind of architecture framework which can validate these changes, it's a very good thing to have. The second reason why I am excited about ArchUnitNet or ArchUnit architecture testing framework is, before lot of architects or leads, whenever we do code review, it was end of the coding cycle. It was most of the reviews were done when we have to push something to very soon to test or production. There was very much less time to make any good changes. So most of these reviews were not that useful. One thing, like when face to face review, you have to be very diplomatic. It means you have to tell things in a polite way, because it's very important when you are giving feedback, you give in a nice friendly way. There was a time when I gave very harsh review to others, and when somebody gave review about my code, I felt bad. So this face-to-face communication was you have to be a little bit careful face-to-face communication. And also these reviews were done so late, you couldn't do much. You just did cursory review and let the code pass so that you and your team can meet the deadlines. So now this framework helps us to find issues while we are coding. So as we can write this test using this framework to make sure that data access assemblies dependencies are managed properly. Front end is not accessing data access layer. The moment someone violates this kind of rules and checks in the code, this testing framework will catch the problem, and it will be easy to rectify because these problems are caught in early cycle of the coding. Third reason why I'm excited about this ArchUnit architecture testing framework is it brings transparency. I was coming up with agile engineering practices, and how management can find out whether team is practicing this agile engineering practices like test-driven development, continuous integration, and whether they are using dependency injection or not. So for testing, you have a code coverage. You can find out how much code coverage is there. I have seen people exaggerating I have seen leads, they were telling management, oh my god, they are producing very high quality code, they have 90% code coverage, and they are using all good practices. They knew nobody is going to check the code, management is not going to come and check the code. So how we can manage, how we can bring a transparency? So using this framework, we can find out whether the classes are implementing interfaces, how are the interfaces are there. So you can do some complex checking using this framework, so that it brings more transparency. So I'm very excited about this framework. This framework help us to find out, test the architecture. So I'm very excited about this testing framework. This testing framework will help us make sure that architecture of application is being respected and maintained, and it will give us warning signals during early development, and it will bring more transparency to the projects, give us more way of finding out if we have a huge code base, too many applications, we can find out is there problems in the architecture. I will be making a lot more videos on ArchUnit framework. So thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, like it, share it, and subscribe to this channel for your regular updates. Connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter, especially LinkedIn. If you like small summaries of the video, I will be posting lot of small summaries of the video. Thanks. Hello friends. Today we will see how we can use ArchUnit to check the naming convention in a layer. Hello friends. This is the second video in ArchUnit net framework using C#. If you are new to ArchUnit net architectural testing framework, check out my other videos. One is the introduction, why it is cool, and I have created another video where I showed how to create this initial setup, how you using NuGet get this ArchUnit framework. Today we will use this application to add one more test. I will add references to those videos in my description. Do check out that, and then you can watch this video if you are totally new to ArchUnitNet framework. So we are going to test that a service layer is following a naming convention. So in service layer, every class should end up with service layer. So we are creating a new class called company service layer, and now we are going to add a test. Service layer classes should have service correct name. So we are going to just check whether the classes in service layer are ending with service layer. So we need references to the classes. Let's create a module level classes which get all. So we are going to create an object which gonna get all the classes in the service layer. So this is a syntax. You create a iObject provider and you provide class as a parameter, and we are going to get we are going to name this variable as service classes, and let's get all the classes that are present in that reside in service layer. So this, I like this syntax, reside in assembly. Instead of finding assembly type, you can just use a class name. So I'll copy the code. So we can use employee service layer class and find it assembly, and then we can give a alias to this class. So naming, I think I need to will follow better naming convention for the test. Generally, I like the naming convention what are you testing, what are the inputs, and what are you returning. So I like that kind of format. It makes your test more readable. And also in future, I would like to start with the failing test. We are starting with a positive test, a happy path. So let's come to the test now. That service layer should have correct name. So uh, classes that are service classes we declared that are the module level should have name ending with service layer. So give me, as I told you in my previous video, let me know if you want to test me some other naming convention where you have some pattern in service layer, you have certain pattern. And so we are checking that all the classes should have name ending with service layer. There is no violation. Now we are going to run the test, and test ran was successful. It passed. So this way, this is the way how we can verify all the name. We are following a naming pattern. So let me mess it up. So let's say somebody created a class called company service layer. So let's run the test now, and we can see the test is okay. I'm running the test, and we can see the test is failing. I'm watching the screen. So let me fix it back and make it pass it again. So today we saw how we can use ArchUnitNet to verify that naming convention is being followed in the service layer. So if you like this video, like it, share it, and subscribe to this channel for your regular updates. Also follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, especially LinkedIn if you like the small summaries of the video. Thank you again. Hello friends. Today we will be doing. Hello friends. Today we are doing the third exercise using ArchUnitNet architecture testing framework. In previous two examples, first time we checked the dependency of the layers. In second example, we tested the naming convention. Today we will test another scenario which is very common in architecture. Generally in our architecture, we have a business layer which talks to, you will start with the presentation layer where all presentation related logic is there, like your HTML, JavaScript. Then we have the business layer where your all the core business logic is there, like if you are checking credit card, doing payments, adding that information to the database. And then we have a data access layer which is concerned about database saving operation, reading and writing. A lot of times we want to make sure we have written some framework, and this framework is using some interfaces. So we want this all the classes written in data access to use these interfaces. For example, in data access you may have a company data access or employee data access, and you may have. So today we'll see how we can verify that the code is respecting this rule, that all the clauses written in data access layer are using this layer. So I'm using the previous project. If you want to see how to start from the scratch, do watch the first video in the series, first coding save video in the series, where I was checking dependency between the layer. So let's create interface which we like our all clauses in data access layer to implement. We will call this data interface as iDatabase, and for time being for our testing we'll just keep in data access layer. Generally it's a good practice to have interfaces in different DLL, different library. So okay, so we created this interface, created same method. Now we'll implement only in company data access class. Today we will start with a failing scenario. So we will implement only in company data access layer. We will not implement in employee data access layer, and our test should fail. So it's a very good practice. Always start with a failing test. So okay, now I'm going to my test project, which I still called architecture layers check. So today we are going to add new test where let's start decorating it with the fact we are using NUnit framework. So we'll call this test as data access layer should implement mandatory interfaces. iDatabase is a mandatory interface here. So we would need some classes from the data access layer. We will follow the same pattern as we did in service layer, should have correct name. So since we need classes that are database access classes, we'll declare at module level. Let me copy this service classes and rename as data classes. We'll copy paste the code from the service classes. Let's rename service classes as data classes. And so we are getting all the classes that reside in assembly. Here we can give it class name and it will find assembly name for it. So we'll give employee data access layer as a type, and it can find the assembly name from. And let's change the alias name from service classes to database classes. So now we have a module level variable. So let's start our test. So assert true that classes that are data classes should implement interface type of iDatabase and has no violations, and that takes parameter architecture type. If you wondering what is this architecture parameter we are giving, let me show you. Architecture is a type which has all the information, all the classes from service layer, data access layer, all the information we need to perform the test. So let's run the test, and our test failed because we did not implement for the employee data access layer. And let's do it for. Sorry, I got a compile. It did not fail. I got a compile error. I save method instead of boolean type in company data access. I saved as void. So I fixed the compile error. Now I'm running the test, and test failed. So good. Today we started with the failed test. Now let's make database this test pass. So I'm going to implement this iDatabase interface for the employee data access layer class also. So I'm implementing the method save, and I'm just putting a fake implementation through not implementation so that I can compile it. And now the test should pass. Let me run the test. The data access layer should implement mandatory interfaces. Now I'm watching the screen. Now the test passed. So thank you very much. Today we checked that a layer should implement mandatory interfaces. How we can use ArchUnitNet test architecture testing framework to verify. Hello friends. Today we will do exercise 4 of ArchUnit. ArchUnit is architecture testing framework. Using ArchUnitNet, you can test the layer dependencies, naming convention, and whether you are implementing mandatory interfaces. Today, we'll do another check. One, one when I started looking into agile engineering practices, most of the agile engineering practices you could verify unit test. What is your code coverage? Continuous deployment. You had it or you didn't. It's so yes or no question. Uh, Smells, long functions. You can find out. There was one thing you couldn't find. I did not know how to find out whether your application is using dependency injection or not, how much you are using. You have 200 classes in a service layer. How many you are using? So if you are first new to this ArchUnit, check out at least my first exercise where I show you how to deploy before looking into this code. Check out other videos in the series. I have a playlist for the ArchUnit. So this is the typical architecture. We have service user interface talks to service layer talks to business layer talks to data access layer, which retrieves and saves data into the database. So why we need dependency injection? It's a very hard interview questions, and a lot of people don't know why they are using AutoFac and inject in their application. The benefit of using dependency injection is you can isolate your layer. So I want to show you how I am going to implement in service layer. So in our rule is that service layer, every class in service layer should have implemented interface. So I am using Visual Studio 2019. So it's very easy to generate interface. You may not see the pop-up. So I have to right click, go to the refactoring and extract interface. It just create the interface for me. So for company service, I created a company service layer. I'm not going to create a service for employee service layer yet. I want a failing test. So now let's write a test which find out all the classes in the service layer have implemented a interface, and the interface name should be I. It should start with I and should end with service layer. So this is my test. I'm writing my test. Service layer should implement interfaces. So we need all the classes in the service layer. So we're gonna declare a variable, local variable, enumerable class, and get all the classes. So while I'm writing the code, I want to finish that thought that benefit of dependency injection is you can provide mock services and you can independently interface user interface. Same is true for service layer, business layer, and data access layer. All layers should talk to each other through interfaces, so that they are lightly coupled. It's easy to test. You can test one layer independent of another layer. And okay, here we are getting all the classes where classes name ends with service layer. There could be a better implementation. Just pull all the classes from the service layer. So once we got all the service classes from the service layer, next is we are going to check whether they are implementing. So I am using a regular expression in this test, and I tried a particular syntax, assert all, and it didn't work. I sent a notice to authors of this email. I put an issue for creators of this one. Let's see whether they answer my question or not. So come back to the test. Okay, here's my test. Classes that are service classes. So this is a regular expression. Dollar signs means that the name should end with service layer. I dot means it should start with I. And the second parameter you have to give to implement interface to let it know that's a regular expression. so has no violation and architecture as a parameter. If you're wondering what is this architecture variable, let me remind you, as we covered in first exercise, architecture has all the structures of the classes, what interfaces they are implementing, what methods they have. So let's run the test now, and since it should fail because we implemented interface only for company service layer, not for the employee service layer. Let's go ahead and implement the service for employee service layer also. Again, you guys cannot see pop-up. I'm right clicking the menu, refactoring, generating the interface from refactoring, and here is we created our interface. And now let's verify that all classes have implemented interface, so dependency injection can use. Our test is passed. So this way now we can use a dependency injection, and using dependency injection you can put fake classes and test your user interface independently. So thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, like it, share it, and subscribe to this channel for regular updates. Also connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter, especially LinkedIn. If you like small summaries of the video, I will be putting a lot of the small summaries of the video on LinkedIn. Thanks for watching. How to validate dependency between different layers using ArchUnitNet architecture testing framework. Hello friends, today we will write our first ArchUnit architectural test. So what we'll be testing is, generally the architecture is layered architecture. UI talks to service layer, and service layer talks to business layer, and business layer talks to data access. So we will make sure you're writing this test that service layer doesn't talk to data layer, service layer talks to data access layer. So what I did here was I started a new .NET Core project, and I added a test project. I'm adding ArchUnitNet framework to the project so that we can use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and rename this test to layer check. The name could be layer check test, and I'm going to copy some namespaces. I have copy pasted some in another one. So let me copy and paste some namespaces which we'll be using for the project. Those are ArchUnitNet.core, domain, fluent, and also remember to use static ArchUnit.fluent.arch rule definition. I missed it in my first example, and I had to work very hard. There was some compile error I was getting. I missed this one, and Visual Studio, I'm using Visual Studio 2019. Visual Studio 2019 was not able to detect certain namespaces, so you have to detect. So let's add some layers. Let's add a service layer. We'll just add a employee service layer class to our project, and then let's add a business layer and add a class called employee business layer. And so we have a service layer, we have a business layer, and let's add the data access layer called employee data access layer. So our logic is the service layer. The logic is it may perform some complex business operations. It may add employee to company, whereas business layer could be simply getting the employee from the data layer. In the data access layer, you will have all the entity framework related in the entity framework. So this service layer we want to keep as clean. We don't want it to know about the data access layer at all. So let's add some more code to our test, architecture layer test. So this architecture class is gonna load all the structure of the assemblies that we are interested. So we can very easily load assemblies. We can give a class name. So we are loading, in this case, service layer and data access layer. So we can validate that service layer is not calling directly accessing the data implied data access layer. So let's add some more code to our layer check. Let me paste the code. So we are getting some error. I copied this code from the example of ArchUnitNet. So we see I'm trying to type in the class, so it's not taking the .NET service name. So we have to create some more uh, module level variables to have reference to the library. So how do you do is like there's a special syntax to do that. Let me paste that. Yes. So this is how you get the types that all reside in service layer. So uh, we need another for, let's rename as service layer and call it data access layer. So okay, so our test is that types that are in service layer should not have any dependency on the data access layer. So let's rename all the data access layer as type that resides in the data access layer. And let's copy data access layer. So this is our rule that types that are in service layer should not dependent on data access layer because it is forbidden. So let's validate. This is how you. This is a rule, and it has no violations. And you pass the architecture class which has all the structure. And let's try to run this test. And we test is not running. Let me. I want to show you some debugging I did, and instead of running the test from here, I'm gonna debug it. So now after running the debug, the test is passed perfectly because right now service layer has access to only business layer, no data access layer. So test is passing perfectly. And let me debug this one, debug the method, and let's debug. And so good thing is in the command immediate window we can see this rule is has no violations, is returning true. So very soon we're gonna test a false case. We want to see whether our tests are working or not. And we should have started by failed test in a two test event development. We started here on a happy path where every condition was true. So here in the employee layer, I added reference to data access layer, and I am calling this a type. So the method is failing. This is very interesting. I found if I'm not using types, I comment all the types, run the test, it's running file, even though I have reference to the data access layer. So as long I'm not using data access layer types, the test is going to pass. The most of the real scenario, somebody would be using types in the project. So data access types in the service layer. In the service layer, as I referred, it should be talking to business layer. It should not be using a data access layer at all. So now when we are not referencing again any object from data access types, the test is passing even though I have a reference. So let's take out comment the code, take out the reference, and test is passing perfectly. So today we saw our first test. We wrote our first C# test to make sure that service layer talks to business layer. It doesn't talk to data access layer. So let me know what kind of architectural test you would like me to try with this ArchUnitNet. Put in comment what kind of ArchUnitNet test you would like me to do. If you like this video, like it, share it, and subscribe to this channel for your regular updates. Also connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter. especially LinkedIn. If you like small summaries of the video, I'll be putting a lot of small summaries of the video on LinkedIn. Thanks for watching again. Hello friends, how to verify that your service layer is not using any data set or data table. Hello friend, this is the fifth exercise in this series. We are using ArchUnitNet. It's a architecture testing framework to verify the some important architecture aspects of your application. Check out my other videos if you are new to ArchUnitNet. So today we are testing that our service layer should not access data set or data table because it's a bad smell. Our service layer should be pure, business layer should be pure. It should not have any data references. It should have only object classes. So I wrote it failing. Let's start with a failing test. In service layer, I'm going to use a system.data namespace so that I can use some data set from this namespace to violate that our principle that service layer is corrupted. It's not pure, it's not clean, it has data set. So a lot of people loves data set, data table. One thing, they are very happy, and they make code little difficult to debug, and one should be using classes because classes object-oriented makes code easy to maintain. So here now we are going to declare a types which will have all the data sets, everything in system.data types. This will contain. This will help us to write unit test. Let me copy the before code and rewrite. So I'm going to rename as data set types, and I'm going to find all types that reside in system.data. Let me rename it as dataset layer. Now, let me change it dataset types instead of layer. Let's go to the test back now. So here now will all the classes not depend on any. We already declared the dataset types on the module level. We already declared the dataset types at the module level, so has no violations. Architecture, if you are wondering what is this architecture type is there, we have declared it at module level. So this architecture structure has all the classes, namespaces that we need for the test. One important thing, when I was writing this test, I forgot to include system.data because we need all the types from system.data also. So let me show you. Here is my architecture class, which has all the information about assemblies, what is inside the assemblies, what methods or what interfaces they are using, and as I showed. So now this we have our test, and this test should fail. Let me make the size bigger so that you can see the test. So the new test we wrote, let me verify. So a service layer should not use dataset or data table. So you guys can see in service layer is corrupted. So the test should fall. Okay, I got a compile error. Let me fix. I forgot the semicolon. Let me run the test, and it failed. It should fail. We will start with failing test. It failed. So now let's try to make it pass. Let me comment the data set, and now it should pass as long as I'm not using any type. So it's fine, and just having reference is not bad. Using that is bad. So let's now it's passing. Let's verify for the data table also that it's we will not use any data set or data table in the service layer. And data table is, now the test should fail because I'm using data table in my service layer. So it failed. Let me comment it. So now it should pass. boom, it did pass. So friends, if you are new to my channel, do subscribe to my channel, share it and like the videos, and also connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter, especially LinkedIn. If you like small summaries of the video, I will be putting lot of small summaries of the video on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.